Welcome to Startup Confidential, what industry insiders will never tell you that you need to know if you're building a consumer brand. With your host, best-selling author of Ramping Your Brand, Dr. James Richardson. Let's do this.
Welcome to episode 134, Why Artisan Pricing Never Scales in CPG. I once worked with a phase 2 client that utilized natural and specialty channels to get over the $1 million sales line pretty successfully. That's roughly $2 million-ish in retail sales out of the POS using that route to market. But then he went fast into conventional stores with virtually the same suggested retail price as he had at Whole Foods. And it was a very high price when benchmarked to nationwide omni-channel price averages in the category. Actually, it was 350% above category unit averages, to be precise. So part of the issue is that buyers, they also respond to artisan positioning and sometimes forget to challenge founders. And they may, on their pricing, and they may even want artisan priced offerings, at a Whole Foods price to project a certain image to shoppers in specific zip codes in their store systems. There are multiple categories in your average suburban supermarket where you'll find this artisan-priced specialty food grape, on the shelves. Pasta sauce, jam, wine, bottled water, specialty cheeses, chocolate, bread in the bakery. And this, wasn't the case when I started off my career. These were rare supermarkets in very specific cities like LA and Seattle that had this kind of specialty food showing up, at Safeway or, Kroger. You won't find a lot of artisan price UPCs, and I mean selling 4 times higher than the category average unit price in a typical supermarket. I mean, you'll find some, again, especially in highly educated zip codes. And, they generally do not move as fast at Food Lion or the Krogers of the retailing world. Same brand, same offering, same price. Specialty retail pricing, which has got tons of artisan price products, works well for specialty stores because their shopper base is coming in the door in large part for this tier of goods. They're psychologically primed to trade up. They're not walking in feeling poor. And B, there are also, in most specialty stores, unlike Whole Foods, there are mere premium, less expensive options right next to the artisan ones. And there are mainstream brands at those stores as well. Everyone seems to forget that. So a shopper does not actually have to trade up across the board in every category at these stores, which they do have to do at Whole Foods or a similar online specialty website like Thrive Market. So in specialty retail, people feel in control of their trade up. Even though honestly, these stores are so beautiful and enticing that it's super unlikely you'll avoid some very pricey impulse buys. Right? It's all designed to get that to happen. But every CPG category has its gray upper line where unit pricing transforms your brand from an everyday consumable, at least for some folks, to essentially just a fancy gift or a holiday purchase for almost everybody. In pasta sauce, as of New Year's 2025, I'd say this is about $12 a jar. Chocolate bars probably around $10. And every category has a different sort of gray area where pricing just becomes artisan. Now, in commodity categories, in consumer packaged goods that we don't use as ceremonial gifts or feature at dinner parties, cream cheese, shredded cheese. There's not a lot of premium you can command and still scale. It's super hard. This is why, in part, it took so long for Tillamook to get its price down and actually, scale into the powerhouse that it is. And that's because they still age their cheddar cheese for 15 months. It's very expensive and time-consuming, not 3 months, like other people. So it takes enormous manufacturing scale to bring down initially artisan prices. That delays the journey. Sometimes it makes it impossible. In my book, Ramping Your Brand, I talk about 50 to 200% price premium over market share leading, processed brands as a viable pricing window. This finding is not a guess. It was based on correlations between sustained unit volume growth over a 5-year period and average retail price for a large randomized set of brands. Now, when you get into more of the details, in certain categories like dairy and cereal, that premium pricing window is going to be narrower than the range I just gave. And that's because in those categories, for some arbitrary historical reasons, consumers just hate overpaying. I think it's because those are categories that, and cereal's one of them, that there's really no social show-off factor. So you might value health and pay $11, for some fancy artisan muesli, maybe, but you're not really going to be sharing that with others. It's going to be very much an individual choice. So you got to be unbelievably hyper-motivated to trade up that much in something as private and personal as cereal. Very few people raid your fridge and pantry to assess your cereal and dairy choices, aside from me, which is why I don't get many invites. And there are dozens of other categories, just like this, where the base price is already high and folks just won't trade up much more at all, even for a considerably new and attractive outcome. I mean, Kevin's Natural Foods correctly anticipated this price ceiling in refrigerated pre-cooked proteins. They didn't launch at $20 because they were sous vide. That would have been a real problem. In categories with very low price elasticity and a low price premium ceiling, placing yourself way above the gray line of artisan pricing means you will just attract a tiny niche with little chance of expanding feasibly. Even if you aren't in a commodity category like cream cheese, don't ever price yourself into the artisan stratosphere, or you will wind up selling, in specialty stores, crawling, or in gift shops. Or, even worse, you will become a Q4 holiday business. So there's a massive difference strategically and in terms of velocity, and ultimately how long it takes to scale between premium CPG pricing, which is 50% to 200% over the category average, and artisan pricing, 300, 400%, 500%. You might want those to be your growth rates, but not your price premiums. It's the difference, honestly, between killing it at Fancy Food Show versus Expo West. Often naive founders will price themselves accidentally into the artisan zone. This is really important. Accidentally in, because they want to maintain, a 40% gross margin, but their COGS are insane. So this leads them to setting a very high wholesale price to the distributor or retailer. Now, this can easily lead to SRPs at $8, $10, $12 if you're not pausing to think through, wait a minute, what are all the markups to the shelf in third-party distributed routes to market? Oops. One primary reason, this doesn't get discussed enough, but one primary reason to raise money early is to fund a lower, i.e. money-losing distributor wholesale pricing structure and or promo pricing to get your SRP down episodically. In other words, to fund those losses. This is about raising money to fund a money-losing business until it can scale and reduce certain variable costs. Now, you should be able to forecast your ability to do that. And in some cases, you can't do it until you're over $100 million, in which case, you need to raise a massive war chest to survive. So it's not going to be viable in those cases for your average founder. And overall, I prefer that founders have better unit economics, from the start, ideally, so that they can price at a premium, not artisan level, in their wholesale pricing on their sell sheet. Or raise a lot of private seed money that's going to carry you 3 to 5 years at a premium SRP at the shelf while you're losing money, and get you to a scale where you can get your margins better under control. Now, I'm not advocating that you slash your wholesale pricing just to go obtain growth, because obviously you will start bleeding. But you have to be realistic about consumers' willingness to trade up in your category. You just can't wish away these issues. And the issue is the barrier that artisan pricing is causing to trial and to, more importantly, frequent usage. In the first $3 to $5 million of your company's sales, you may easily find enough people with a really good product line to prop up your artisan priced business. But it's going to hit a wall at that price. That wall could very be the result of artisan pricing where it doesn't belong, i.e. in a category where it doesn't belong. So now some of you follow me and you might point out that, hey, Dr. Squatch scaled a $7 bar of soap in a category where at the time you could get like a 6-pack of Dove for that. Okay, that's impressive. Yes. Artisan pricing, commanded and supported by a massive internet marketing campaign that also occurred during a pandemic where we were all getting checks every quarter from the government. Yes, I guess it's technically possible, but man, you'd have to be willing to take those creative risks. And you would need the seed money to fund the initial marketing experiment that Dr. Squatch did in 2019. It wasn't cheap. And a lot of money. So it's true that you can use clever pop culture marketing to make a premium, an artisan price seem worth it. I get it. It's been done before. But that's really a privilege of Liquid Death, of the Dr. Squatches of the world that had marketing dollars to spend, either personally or from investors, and that you probably don't have. So to me, those anecdotes are a massive distraction. But if you're pre-revenue and you have the ability to go that route, it is something you could think about. In premium CPG, if you want to avoid artisan pricing that turns everyone off, right? Without the Dr. Squatch style internet experience, and you don't have a couple million for performance marketing experiment, you really need to look hard at your gross profits. Profits, pennies, not just your gross margin percentage when selling to the distributor. The margin obsession is pushed by institutional investors because once they strip out all sorts of expenses from your low gross profit but high gross margin business, the net profits will be up enough for them to make the enterprise value look better to a buyer. Right? This is their game. Institutional investors can and will scale an upside-down P&L with that kind of potential. Oh, yeah. But most founders who want to stay in control, they're going to need to seed raise enough to support a premium SRP, even though their P&L is going to desperately beg them to be selling at an artisan price in many cases, after all the markups to the shelf, right? Without venturing into artisan pricing. I'll say that again. Most founders are going to need to seed raise enough to support a premium SRP without venturing into artisan pricing. Or just get to 8 figures with artisan pricing and invest in reducing wholesale pricing to mere premium levels with outside money at that stage. Now, that's not easy, but it's possible with angels. Now, whether you avoid or continue with artisan pricing, at least understand that it's your reality, understand the pricing tiers in your category, and don't kid yourself. And plan your growth and investments accordingly. All right, that's all I've got, folks. So be safe out there.
Thanks for listening. Remember, Dr. Richardson has loads of resources for founders at premiumgrowthsolutions.com. And when you're on his site, don't forget to take his founders quiz and see if you're ready to ride the skate ramp of exponential growth.